The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Don't you get the sense, and if you're just joining us, this one woman's wonderful, Linda Jordan, about Obama's lawyer, Judith Corley, and doing the night flight and bringing in the PDF. I mean, this is my theory. And it was interesting yesterday in a private conversation with Susan Daniels when I said to Susan, well, why does the SSN number, why does it make this change from, and now he has 042684425 that's exclusively reserved for the residents of Connecticut. And he's done this for 25 years. And her theory is, and it's brilliant, because his Social Security number was one issued to a foreign national, and that he had to drop that. He's got a real Social Security number someplace, but issued to a foreign national. And it's one of the reasons, I mean, all the suppressed grades and all the suppressed. By the way, there's a woman out now who went to high school with him, and she's starting to talk. And
yeah, I've heard her.
Yeah.
But you know what, Peter? There's all these fantastical stories that we can supply to figure out who this person is. For me, he's using fake ID.
Oh, yeah, no question.
I mean, and that's a reality. I know that, and he should not be allowed to use fake ID. My son's a deputy sheriff, and he has a high security clearance where he's at. I know what vetting is. I know what lengths they went to with him and have done repeatedly every 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
He could not get into a cheap bar on a Saturday night with this ID. It's so bad.
Well,
not even if he was a pretty girl.
Yeah.
I want him to get out of the White House, and I want him to be prosecuted for using fake ID, for election fraud, for getting on the ballot with a fake name, a fake Social Security number, a fake birth certificate, for usurping the White House. It's not okay. He's denigrating the rule of law. And all
what's interesting,
chaos breaks loose when that happens, and we can't allow it to happen.
No.
So we, the people, need to get up there and stop it, because obviously no one else who's supposed to is doing their job.
Well, Joel Gilbert's great line to the Washington Press Club, he said, there's a Pulitzer Prize for anybody in this room. All you got to do is reach out. And
I heard that.
Yeah, it's true.
You say that yesterday. Now, who's Joel Gilbert?
Joel Gilbert made the film Dreams from My Real Father, and that's what I'm saying. I think there has to be, and I actually thought about this, there has to be maybe, I don't know what you would call it, a seminar, and I'd love to do it in Denver and do it on the radio, of all people like yourself and and Gilbert and Jack Cashill, and I go down a list of people, Judith, obviously, then Susan Daniel, and you go and get all these people together and say, exchange information. They do it all times in academia. They bring guys in and they have, presentations of papers and panel discussions.
Right.
And honest to God, I mean, I've been kicking that around about doing it forever, and maybe the time has come, but because the information is so overwhelming. Now, I realize that Brian Williams is not going to lead the nightly news with it, but I mean, just for people that really quest the white whale, almost like Ahab.
Yes, I think that's an excellent idea, and I'm finding all the time I get introduced to someone by somebody else, and they've gone down a road that I thought we should go down of research, and they've already done it. So it would be good if we could all get together.
Yeah.
I know that when I did my E-Verify research, I don't know if you know this, but I determined I was one of Obama's employers, and I registered with the government-run system E-Verify
he couldn't pass it,
find out if he was eligible to work in the United States.
He's not.
And I ran it, and he failed E-Verify, and his number came back flagged with a special indicator code for fraud.
He couldn't pass. He couldn't pass E-Verify.
it.
No, I know.
And this was affirmed again. He couldn't register for Obamacare because his numbers and his names don't match up. His birth date, his name, his Social Security numbers, they don't match.
Yeah. Well, the Connecticut number, and, was the fellow that was born, and then he gets this number later because he needs his benefits. He was born in 1890. Birth certificate date for Barack Obama's birth is 4 August 61. I mean, it's impossible. Barack Obama uses an SSN 042684425 reserved for residents of Connecticut and has done so consistently for the past 25 years. Now they cover it up. Now you can't see that, but
That's true. Once I did the verify also,
right.
people tried to replicate the next day and could not do it. You know what, Peter? I wanted to launch this off my website. I think it'd be fantastic to raise some reward money for the owner of Connecticut Social Security number 042.
He's dead. I mean, he's dead.
I would love to place huge newspaper ads in Connecticut and just say, we're looking for the owner of this number. If it's you could be $10,000 richer.
Yeah, most people believe that they know who the guy is and that he was here. He was born in Belgium. He comes to the country, and later in his life, he's been paying SSN, but he does it, and he asks for, because he wants his benefits.
Right, and that very well could be, but it could be that he has a family member that knows what his number was.
That's well said too. Let me come back to this. My theory that what Judith Corley did was take a plane ride, and that's just about all she did. That they gave the assignment, because they can't let it out to a pro because a pro might talk, but they give it to the kid that I call Jimmy down the hall. Now Jimmy is so politically correct that he can't dare say Negro or anything that
so we know what time period he was raised in because of that.
Yeah, so he says father's race African. Well, Saddam Hussein is an African, Anwar Sadat's an African, Mubarak's an African, Nelson Mandela's an African. That's like saying, me putting down, race, I put down American. Well, there's black Americans, brown Americans, yellow Americans, white Americans. You can't say it. Race is down to, and then, of course, guys like Corsi and these guys, they search 5 years before, 5 years after. They can't find another birth certificate that says African for a black kid.
Well, as late as 2002, I did some research and found that the Hawaii Health Department was using black.
Sure.
So even in 2002, African was not their choice.
Of course not. But Jimmy down the hall, who is used to saying African American,
right?
Jimmy writes in African, and the file can be, it's layered. I mean, and it has all kinds of numbers problems where it's out of sequence and all these kinds of things. And I remember, I mean, they're doing handsprings at the old Rocky Mountain News because this document drops, and I don't think Corley brought anything. I think she was in the law firm.
No, and you know what happened along that same line? I made a public records request for Loretta Fuddy's calendar and appointment schedule for a whole year and a half, but it covered April 25th, 2011. And it's very interesting. I got back a response that there are no such records in response to my request. Yeah. And so I wrote Janice Okubo back at the Hawaii Health Department. I said, what do you mean? Are you telling me that the director of the Hawaii Health Department kept no calendar, no appointment schedule, no phone records related to her work? Yeah. And she came back and answered no.
Yeah. It is a mystery, as Winston Churchill said, in an enigma and a riddle. I'm going to say good morning and thank you. We put your work up on our website.
Oh, thank you.
We will have you back. But I think
thank you very much. And hey, people can go check out birtherreport.com and obamafakeid.com to get more info.
I wear that jacket, Birther, proudly.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the best you got, you ain't got enough. And what's fascinating to me is the critics have shut up. But I used to ask them to come on a radio show, and they would they would either not return my calls, or this one, I'm not coming on your hate show.
Yeah. Well, we know what that's all about. It's designed to just shut you up and for the truth to not come out. But I thank you for speaking the truth, and I appreciate your radio station for allowing you to do it.
Talk to you real soon. Thanks, pal.
Right.
All right, thank you.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.